On March 25, 2013, the Missouri House Wetlands Management Committee met to discuss a proposed ban on the sale of all live crayfish for bait. The Missouri Department of Conservation instituted the ban in the spring of 2012 after studying the issue for almost a decade.
The interesting thing about crayfish is that out of their habitats they can become invasive. And what's interesting is not only can they become invasive, they can be a native species in one watershed, but when they're transported to another watershed, even in Missouri, they can create problems. The Regulations Committee contemplated regulations and in fact passed a regulation that would prohibit the sale of live crayfish as bait.
Soon after the ban was instituted, it was put on hold because of intense negative feedback from the public. Fishery and bait sale businesses were upset because they were never made aware of the impending regulation.
MDC did poll bait shops and fish farmers on their crawfish activities, but they failed to clearly state their intentions regarding a ban. Nobody knew, nobody was aware that this was going to happen, so we didn't have an opportunity to comment and give reasons why we felt as fish farmers that this would be a mistake. Yes, MDC did post back in fall of 2011. It was commented earlier that there were no comments as a result of that posting. Again, a huge red flag. I think at that point in time, the fact that there were no comments would indicate that nobody was aware that this was coming down. The new rule was published in October, on the 17th of October 2011, and it stated that the public cost, this proposed amendment will not cost state agencies or political subdivisions more than $500 in the aggregate. The same comment was made as to the private cost. Again, no more than $500 in the aggregate. This was misleading and incorrect. Using the MDC's surveys, which we were given copies of at that meeting and following the meeting in January of 2012, we came up with an estimate of what the bait shop revenue would be, and it's $672,000. For fish farmers, $99,000. For pet shops, $141,000. Bait distributors, $336,000. The direct crawfish sales statewide would be $1.2 million. My understanding is that there's a number of other sales that occur because they do sell crawfish. Somebody goes into that shop and buys other incidental items. That was estimated to be $1.3 million. The sales tax revenue that would be lost due to a crawfish ban would be another $207,000. So we estimate roughly $2,800,000 in as far as an economic impact resulting from the crawfish ban.
The wholesalers, bait shop owners, retailers are here to really ask for some certainty. As it's been noted, this has been a 10-year endeavor for them. You know, additionally, I have interest in this. I grew up in a bait shop. I know that crawfish have been sold certainly at the Lake of the Ozarks. I don't even want to tell you for how long, because I was a little girl when I counted them out.
The impact on Missouri streams and the crawfish population has been greatly, not just skimmed over, but greatly affected by the introduction of the river otter to the streams and waterways of Missouri. And that fact the department has not given much credence to, but as I inspect with what happens in my fish farm, I have 235 impoundments of water ranging in size from a half an acre to 7 acres. We've seen the otter enter the hatchery in the early 1990s and decimate my crawfish supply in my ponds. My annual sales reached $35,000 a year in crawfish, and my father and I and my grandfather before me worked for 35 years to develop a market for this really byproduct to the industry. And it was destroyed basically in 1 or 2 years due to the depredation of the crawfish by the river otter. They have had more of an impact on the Missouri fisheries and streams of Missouri than any bait bucket dump will ever hope to accomplish.
This, in fact, effect to my business would cause the financial hit of $35,000 a year. This equals 1 employee at my business. Now figure out what the state, city, and county taxes base loss would be. This is just my business in St. Louis. What about statewide?
The first point I got to make here is that crayfishes are likely to continue being used as bait, even if they're caught from the stream in which they're used. The problem that we're going to run into if we're not careful is if there's no other options for acquiring crayfish, especially if you're wanting to go fishing somewhere else that may be another drainage. The simplest thing to do is go catch crayfish from a stream that's close to you and then go somewhere else, whether it be legal or not. That's often going to be pursued. If we have a legal option where they can acquire crayfish at the local bait store as needed, that might be a way of controlling that, put a damper on it.
MDC staff, from the director's office down through the rank and file, are always quick to tout that they have a mandate from the people of Missouri to protect and preserve the resource of our state. With that mandate, however, comes the responsibility and obligations to work with the public to keep them informed of activities and actions of the department. Everyone shares a mutual concern for the resource of our state. The past 15 months of discussion and dialogue have proven to be educational for all parties involved. A phrase that MDC frequently has used is we need to find the right balance between the social, economic, and environmental pieces of this issue. A reasonable balance point was identified and brought forward by MDC that will meet the needs of fish farmers, bait dealers, and sportsmen while achieving the agency's responsibility of protecting the resource. I would encourage MDC to restore the trust and integrity of the stakeholder discussions by adopting their own proposed amendment to the crayfish rule, which allows for the sale of the virile crayfish for bait in Missouri.
While I understand that the Conservation Department has done the polling or surveys and things, it doesn't seem to me like they were given sufficient notice to the private businesses out there. And it seems to me to be somewhat unfair, and it is almost an arbitrary approach to change the regulations in the way that it's occurred, especially whenever it affects the income on businesses. And I think that anytime we are affecting the income of private businesses, that should be held in a very high regard. Saying that it's 4% does not convince me that it's permissible. On a lot of businesses, 4% may be their profit margin, and it concerns me that this has happened. But I would like to inquire of the department if they could give us something, and you may not be able to do it tonight, but I would like some sort of assurance or timeline on when it is that we would have a response to this proposed resolution of the one particular species of crawfish that seems to be somewhat of an agreeable resolution to this. I know that it's not totally palatable to those on the other side, but at least it is something. And I think that it seems a bit unjust to leave these people out here with their livelihoods on the line, not having some sort of assurance or at least some sort of time frame. So if the department could at least give us something, and I would ask if you could give us something within the next week, I would like something that perhaps we could pass along to these folks that we represent that are out here tonight, to at least give them some sort of answer. And I sit here tonight and tell the department that we are watching and we are monitoring and we are concerned about this issue.